Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Edge on Good News Sports. I'm your host, Glenn Allen. Today on the show, we ask, what does it mean to be a family man? Is it enough to be a breadwinner? I don't think so. Your wife and children don't just want your money. They want your time, your attention, your love, and your leadership. This show today will challenge men to do more than just exist in the same house as their wives and their children. To talk more about this today, well, let's introduce the panel. Starting off with Drew Marshall from the Drew Marshall Radio Show. How you doing, buddy?
You are one of the best-looking guys I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, you're a liar. From 100 Huntley Street, please welcome Reynold, Mainse. How are you, buddy?
Doing well, thanks.
Good to see you.
All right. Hey, Drew.
Also on the program today is author and leadership coach Dave Loney.
How you doing?
Good to see you, buddy.
All right, Dave.
And as I always say, last but certainly not least, he is the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
The anchor man, always pulling up the rear.
There it is.
Good to be
Better
here,
than
guys.
wiping up the rear.
Boy.
Oh, wow.
When I want something out of you, I'll beat it out of you.
And he can do it. He can do it.
So today we'll talk about love. No.
This could be a turnbuckle right here, this corner.
I think Reynolds watched a little wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
No doubt about it.
Listen, guys, today talking about being men in our family. Define a family man. Reynolds, I'm gonna start with you. Define a family man.
Why don't you start with me?
Go ahead, Ren.
Because, Drew, somehow you're going to squeeze in there anyway, so I'm going to talk as quick as I can because you're going to squeeze in. A family man. I am a family man. I have an 18-year-old daughter, a 16-year-old daughter, and a son who's just about to be a teenager. And I remind my kids that we're a family. We're kind of like this, the 5 fingers on a hand, where we're all joined together. We can't get away from each other. We all count on each other. And Dad might as well be the thumb.
This finger?
This one. Oh, Drew, come on now. See, it's already begun. Drew, this, I tell you.
When you close them, that's right.
Close them.
Yeah.
But literally, we have to rely on each other. And I think that being a family man, growing up in a family where I had a good example before me, not all people have that privilege. Mm-hmm. I had a bit of a path in front of me that I could walk, but still, this is my first time around. I'm learning as I go. Mm-hmm. I have to be very conscious and considerate of my wife because my kids are always looking to my wife. So I think what my parents always told me,
treat your wife.
Treat my wife, is the best thing you can do for your kids. What my parents told me is to love their mother. But that's not neglecting the kids either. But that is key in a home because a home is based on a relationship that the parents set the pace for.
Just before I go to the other guys, with your 18-year-old daughter, are you afraid that she's going to bring somebody home like that?
Like this?
What would you do?
No, tell you what. This guy, Drew Marshall, who you're getting to know here, has all the one-liners, and he can crack up anyone, but I know the man deep inside. He's a quality fella. And there it is.
Canadian
Did I do
boy.
one of these here
Canadian
too?
boy.
So that's not a bad thing.
How much
If
did
she
you
brought
pay
home a
you?
Drew Marshall, that's not bad.
Holy smokes.
Come on.
Everybody's got a price.
Dave Loney, leadership coach, author. You wrote a book specifically for men. As a family man, what's your definition?
That's a great question. Definition of a family man. I'm not sure that I have one. I'm walking it out every day.
What comes to mind?
Focusing on the family, focusing on the kids. You're creating. It started with the one act, and then you have these kids, and over their lives as they're growing up, you're creating. You're molding them. You're shaping them, and that's an ongoing process. You got to be there for it, and you got to be around for them, and it's a team effort. You and your wife are working on that together, and it's tremendously challenging. It's a lot of fun. It's an amazing joy as well.
What do you think is the most challenging thing, though?
The most challenging thing I find is listening.
Is what?
Truly listening to the kids.
Listening.
Yeah, listening.
So you understand
because when
them.
you're not just
Because
understand
they're all
them.
unique.
It's not the understanding. I can understand. We can understand, but I think listening is being willing to change. If you can truly listen to somebody, you have to say, I'm going to put my own agenda aside, my butts aside, my what do I want aside.
Bingo.
And I'm going to be willing to change based on what they're telling me right now.
Based on their needs.
Based on their needs. And if they can change my mind, I have to lower my ego, I have to put that stuff aside, and I have to be willing to back them if they've been able to convince me.
Do you also have
That's
to change
exciting.
your priorities?
Oh, yes.
I mean, changing your priorities and what's important. You know, is it the big game? Is it going out with the, you know, you work an X number of hours a week, and there's nothing wrong with going out and having leisure time for yourself, but especially the guys, so many times they're doing it to the extreme. And Ted, I mean, sports is a great avenue. but sometimes we get lost in with the converter and playing ourselves.
I had to become, a good family man. My world ended up revolving around wrestling. I mean, it was my God, it was my business, and the thing I dealt with was a huge pride and a huge ego. I loved my wife, I loved my kids, but I was obviously more in love with myself. I mean, and when I had that conversion experience, one of the first books I ever read was a book that I still give to guys, as often as I can put it in their hand when I think they need it, Maximized Manhood by Dr. Edwin Lewis Cole. And we have an epidemic. I don't know about Canada, but I know in the United States, we have an epidemic of fatherless children. And I mean, I'm not talking about guys who have kids and just split. I'm talking about fathers that are home every day, but they're not connected.
They're
absentee dads. They come home, they sit in front of the TV, it's click, 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 while mom is taking the kids and doing everything. First and foremost, God calls us to be priest in the home first. Character and integrity. And when I started getting into that role and realizing that biblically, I'm going to be held accountable before God for the spiritual well-being of my kids and my family, I'm going to answer to God for their spiritual health. In other words, it's not my wife's job to have my kids in church. It's my job to be the spiritual leader and to lead by example.
Reynold brought up a point, though, when you talked about, Reynold, you had obviously your dad being David Mainse, having a great role
David
model.
Mainse?
He's David Mainse. Do you want me to sign anything where you're right now? Based on my dad?
Yeah. But you had that role model.
Yeah.
What about the dads who are out there who come to Promise Keepers conventions, and they're sitting there because they know that something's being called on their heart. They go to, whether it's a convention, whether they go to a small group, meeting other guys or even watching this program and going, you know what, there's something missing. I don't know what it is, but they didn't have that role model growing up, and they can't put their fingers on it. How do those guys make those changes to become the dads and the husbands that God intended them to be, Dave?
Find a role model. I was one of those guys. My home life as a kid was absolutely terrible. It was a war zone in the middle of suburbia, and nobody knew it. And when I got
yelling and screaming and
more than that, we
drinking and
won't get
stupid
into it.
stuff?
It was it was Christian home, but you wouldn't know it inside the home when I was growing up. There wasn't that kind of that role model there. Love my dad now, a lot of forgiveness there. That's not what we're talking about tonight. But how do I now become a good father? My wife said to me when we were married for a couple of years, I don't want to have kids with you.
Your wife said that
Yeah,
to you?
I don't want to have kids with you. And why not? Because of the way you're talking to me, because of the way you're acting, because of the way you're living life.
Were you emulating your dad?
I was myself. I was who I was. I was as a result of the many years of what I had stored up inside. So guess what? I got to learn to change. I've got to learn to be a good dad. What does that look like? Find a role model.
Change, you said it. And Ted, you talked about pride. And I think that's a huge hindrance. When a man comes in and he says, I am the man. I will be served. Really, we have to serve our kids. We've got to lay it down like that.
Do you think guys actually say that? They come in and they go, I am the man, you
it's kind
of
that arrogance where I can't be wrong. I'm the dad.
Yeah.
You're the child.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that helped me, because you're talking about the path that was before you with your parents, my dad was willing to apologize to us kids when he was wrong. Yeah. And I've been able to do that with my kids, and I realize I make mistakes all the time. And so to respect my child enough, and that's kind of an odd phrase, a parent respecting their children, respecting them enough to apologize and say, I made a mistake. Can you forgive Dad? Can you forgive Dad? And boy, do they then turn around and respect you.
We've talked about that on previous shows, about going ahead and showing your kids that you're human,
yes,
and that you make mistakes. And when you show them that vulnerability and you can admit up to it, fess up to it, they end up trusting you even more. I know with my kids, and to me, it's like the one thing that Dr. Cole stressed all the time, and I found it to be true, is quality time. And I had a good role model, even though my dad was actually my stepfather. The role model in my life was my stepdad. He was a wrestler. He traveled a lot, but I can remember, the quality time that I had with him. There were times when he would take me on the road with him, and we'd make trips to wherever he was wrestling. It was just me and him. Those are the greatest memories of my life. And I have built some of those memories with my boys and there are times when I take them all, but when I get one-on-one with them, let's go to lunch, let's go to a ball game, let's go to a movie, let's just go somewhere, just the two of us, and just do something. Those are the times they remember the most with their dad.
But then we also those walls come down, and we actually get more done with our kids because it's one of the things that works with this show and other shows like this. When people are, especially guys, are vulnerable, to be honest and open, no strings attached, it means more to that person watching or to our kids. What do you think your biggest strength is as a dad?
Probably my right hook, I think. Yeah, just Actually, my kids are doing much better now that they're in foster care. They're just
is that the
excelling, doing quite good. My biggest strength as a dad is vulnerability. Just being honest, when you screw up, own it. And there's always this constant check. I get dragged into my identity being wrapped up in work. So I got to get back there and be a dad. Give them time. You guys are always talking about that. I got to do that too. I suck at it though.
All righty. How are we doing on time, buddy? We're almost break time. Okay, let's. We're going to pick up after the break and continue this talk. We're back with more Good News Sports right after this. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Good News Sports. Glenn Allen, Drew Marshall, Reynold Mainse.
You hesitated again.
It's because you're looking at you. Dave Loney and $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Today on the program, talking about men and their family. We started talking about some of our strengths, and we've started and left off at Drew.
Well, that was a segue into weakness, I think.
Yes, and we'll get back to you on that one. Reynold, if someone were to ask your kids what your strength is, or ask Kathy what your strength is as a husband or that family man, what do you think they'd come up with?
It used to be this with Glenn, but not anymore. I'm a 45-year-old man. Got to get to the gym. A strength, though, a good strength. I would say my wackiness with the family. I'm willing to just be crazy and have fun, dance with the kids, cut up, have a great time with them, be very vulnerable as well, and open, perhaps open even about my own failures as well, growing up as a child and through teen years, because I don't want them to think, Mom and Dad, they're just perfect, and here I am, I'm struggling with this or that. I know.
Did they ever find out some of the stuff you're struggling with?
Oh, yeah. Sure. We've shared them at an age-appropriate time
as
well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But there was an older generation that went before me that never told us anything that they ever did wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you think we're telling too much stuff now?
So I had the ideals.
We're too Dr. Phil, we're too Oprah with our kids? We need to shut up a little bit more?
No, I think
age-appropriate, I think, is the key.
Yeah, age-appropriate. And that's vitally important. So some vulnerability and wackiness. I think my kids and family really enjoy Dad the Comic.
Dave?
Well, a couple things. You brought up risk. I take risk with the kids and show them how to kind of step out like that. But I think one of the main strengths I bring is that of vision. Looking at the kids and looking further into their lives and saying, what am I building into? What is my wife and I, what are we building into? And how do we recalibrate the family for these next few years in order to help the kids achieve what they need to achieve?
How do you invest in them?
Invest and be proactive. Mm-hmm. So, for example, we were on a beach in California. Our girl, who's 16 now, was in grade 1, and the teacher said she's really going to have to learn to get serious about school. She plays too much. And
grade 1?
Grade 1, yeah, I couldn't believe it. And she's a playful kid, right? Oh, I tell you. Well, you know what we did? We looked at the school system, and this was and we said, you know what? I'm traveling. I have a business. It takes me around the world. Let's pull the kids out. So we pulled the kids out of school and we homeschooled them up until grade 9, each one of them. And
Great.
we brought them with us and we showed them the world. But that decision was a lot of risk, and we had to do a lot of planning because we had to plan their curriculum, but also help them plan their lives.
But showing that investment is also showing them that commitment that you had to them.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's
yeah. It's been
Ted,
wonderful.
what about your strength and go from your strength to your weakness, and we're going to come back around.
No,
We'll quickly go through this.
Honestly, I want to know if you put your kids in any of the camel clutch holds or the sleeper to get them to go to sleep.
Absolutely.
Go to sleep.
Body slam them.
Yeah.
Right,
Have some of the other wrestlers come over.
Oh yeah. I would say one of the strengths that I've had that I developed was the vulnerability. In other words, if you know my story, I was caught in infidelity. At the time I had one son who was like 13 or 14, one that was like 9, another one was 4. When my wife and I reconciled and we reestablished our relationship, one of the things in my wife's wisdom She said, you're a good dad. In spite of all this, you're a good dad, and your boys love you. They have you on a pedestal. I don't want to destroy that. And then as I started going out and sharing this testimony of God's forgiveness and our restoration, she said, share the story, Ted, but not the dirty details. She says, when those boys are old enough, then you can share it with them. And as they've gotten old enough, as you said, time appropriate, I have shared them with it, shared my vulnerability and my, like, hey guys, like I messed up. By the grace of God, your mother and I are still together. And so I have tried to, demonstrate to them, through the love they see that I have for their mother now, and being open about the mistakes that I made. I have more respect from them than I ever had before.
Really quickly, I'm gonna do this really quick, so we only have a short period of time left. In a sentence, a weakness.
A weakness. In spite of knowing that I need to spend time with them individually, getting too busy. And really focusing in and making that time for them.
Dave, really quickly in a sentence, weakness.
Probably patience.
Okay. Reynold?
Probably speaking not deep enough and just having too much fun.
Being surfacey kind of deal.
Superficial, a little superficial.
Right.
Okay. You too?
All of the above.
Okay. Let me ask you this then, guys. Where are we missing the mark? Are we in a generation, and you touched on it already really with Dr. Phil, are we trying too hard to be our kids' best friend rather than be their dad?
No.
Oh man, that's good.
Absolutely not.
I don't think
You
so.
don't think
right?
society? You don't think our society?
There's the odd hippie parent
Yeah.
out there that's doing that.
But there is a transition
So
in
what's
different type
the
of
deal in schools
relationships.
then?
You get there.
Why is everything so out of control then?
what?
Well,
At
there's a-
schools.
you know, we have
Let's define
generation-
friend.
No,
I mean,
they're
what
out-
is a friend?
yeah.
I mean, is a friend someone that's just going to let everybody, let them do what they want to do?
They want you.
and
I'd
say
rather
yes to
have
everything.
Well, no.
or is
What
a
I
friend
see in the
gonna-
schools are parents who would rather have their kid be their friend than be a parent, and then the
And
kids
that's
that
wrong
are
at that
getting
stage.
away with
Wrong
everything.
at that stage. I believe when your child becomes an adult, you can connect on that friendship
Yeah,
level.
but I mean, we're talking, and you look at the elementary, talk to some teachers, talk and talk to some police departments, and talk about what they're dealing with today. We used to hear our parents go, well, your generation is a lot worse than ours because of what you're doing. Well, this generation now is worse. So why is it? Why is it? Is it the absent fathers in the homes? What's going on? Why is it that way?
It is absentee dads. It's an epidemic in the United States. Absentee fathers. The absence of male leadership and a male role model in the home has destroyed the basic family structure. I know in the States. I don't know about Canada.
Yeah.
And the other part of that, Ren, is and guys, you look at the importance that men put on sports.
Yeah.
The big football games, this, that, and the other thing in Canada, the hockey games, Saturday night hockey night in Canada, their getting their kids to the rink.
It's all about
Church
making money,
and the
sports,
relationship with God is so out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's so out of whack. That's one of the biggest
And
problems
what Ted's
we have.
talking about with the absentee father, fathers have to speak into their children's lives, and there's such weight in the words of a father. And that's where dads, we really have to be extremely cautious in the words that we speak over our children, because they will become who we tell them they are. And we can build them up or we can tear them down. If we're not around, we're not speaking into their lives either. That's very loud too.
And discipline. I mean, we have a generation of kids who just expect everything. It's like you're supposed to send me through college. You're supposed to buy me a car. There's all this entitlement. And instead of saying, hey, wait a minute, that's not the way I did it. You want a car? Okay, I'll help you get there, but you're going to get a job and you're going to earn it.
Yeah.
So how do we properly influence our kids' view of God in church today?
One of the things is the way we live our lives.
Example.
One of the things you mentioned being a priest in the home. I literally tracked the way I lived my life, the sin that was in my life, and what happened in my family. And I can tell you, if the umbrella's not up and the rain's coming into the family, and I'm like the umbrella over that family.
You said about 4 things I did not understand
Well,
at all.
let me play it back to you then. What I'm saying is, if there is sin in my life, my family, it shows up in my family. The behavior of my kids, the way my wife feels about
What do you mean,
things.
if there's sin, there's always sin in your life.
I'm talking about if I'm not walking in repentance, if I'm not dealing with stuff that's going on in my life, I'm
Leaving it unresolved. If you're
yeah,
leaving it
yeah.
unresolved,
The reality
it's
is
coming
that's,
out in a different way.
That's finding a way into my family, and I am literally protecting the family with
would you be
with
talking
my
like
spiritual life.
irritability? All of a sudden you're thinking differently, no patience. Is that what you're talking about?
I get that, because when I'm spiritually
Sure, that's part of
stupid,
it.
The
I'm
unbalance.
the most impatient, easy to
Let me
anger
break it
person.
down for you.
Yeah.
If dad allows, Thank you. Yeah. If dad allows crap in his life, your home's going to stink.
That's right.
You know, there's going to be ramifications.
You're a
Thank
Huntley
God
guy. Are
for
you
our
not
wives.
just our behavior.
And I'm saying thank God for our wives because they do the
Yeah.
best they can. They carry a huge load. over
Well,
their
who do you
shoulders.
think is, honestly, who do you think is better at parenting? Naturally, better at parenting? Women or men?
Different roles.
No. Golly,
It's
man.
true.
Carte blanche, right across the board. I think 9 times out of 10 women are much better at parenting than guys. Much better. Why do you think the kids come out of the women? There's a connection there.
But the role has to shift at some point.
there are-
The role
exactly.
shifts over
The
to the
early
man.
years.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
early
the
years, sure,
mother.
it's the mother. But then it's got to shift over to
I'm
the
not- I'm not taking
There's
the
a time like
responsibility
around
off
three
guys.
to five.
Yeah.
There's a time where like when you have a son, like the first couple, I think 3 years or whatever, it's mom, and then from 3 to like 5 to 7, dad has that. That is the space. That's the span
You better
that you
take the
have
ball.
to make an impact in your little boy's life.
right.
That's
So you can
written
be
fact.
absent until they hit 4? You can just don't
No,
even have to
no,
be a part of
I'm
it?
not saying that. No, it's not
Means I
that
don't have to wipe
extreme.
their butts. That's cool. I'm into that.
No, it's not that extreme, but I mean, you have a role to play. And what Dave's saying is there are different roles, and where we're dropping the ball is, or as men overall are dropping the ball, is we're missing that mark, and we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, and the women are doing even more than they have to.
And men play a major role because when you look at the statistics and all the psychological problems, and you look at all these guys that are in prison, guys and women, you know, it always goes back to some issue that a child had, either with a father that was a bad dad or absentee.
Well, you know what? We're this is something I know that we could continue going on for
Long
another.
time. I need more. I need help.
You do. This is another counseling session for you. we have to take another commercial break, and we'll be back with more Good News
Speaking
Sports
of
after
bake.
this. Welcome back to The Edge on Good News Sports. Guys, your family needs you to lead your home. Stop kidding yourself. If you have sin in your life, it affects them too. If your dad wasn't a good role model, find someone who can help you become a strong family man.